Okay, I ran out of time on my last video, so I'm going to try to make this one shorter, but I had a thought tonight, and instead of just sitting on it in my mind or having it turn into something that isn't fruitful, I felt led to make a video. So I want to talk about having a language for limits. Having language for limits, that limits are something that you practice, that limits are something that you've had time and the tools to use over and over again in your life because you realize it produces the ability to walk more fully in the calling that God's given you. So my first tip for limits, especially if you're watching this video and you're a person who feels so bad having a limit with someone when they ask something of you, or when the conversation's going a certain direction and you are not comfortable with it, but like you don't feel comfortable redirecting it or asserting that you're not comfortable continuing to talk about that subject with that person. If you're someone that really struggles with that, then this video is definitely for you. So tip number 1 would be, if someone asks something of you, makes a request of you, don't feel the urgency that you have to answer on the spot right away. This can be easier if it's sent in a message than if it's asked of you in person. But I've found if I just give myself time, I'm much more likely to make a wise answer, have a wiser response. And then my tip number 2 would be to, as you kind of sit in the discomfort of knowing after praying, knowing fairly confidently that you need to decline this thing or have a limit around this thing with this person, and you feel a discomfort of how that conversation might go, or if you feel fear of how that person's going to respond, which is something that I've really struggled with in the past. I still struggle with to an extent, but I'm so much better now because I've kind of exerted this muscle of setting limits and strengthened it. Remind yourself of the truth that you can have limits and still have compassion. So there might have been a time in your childhood where you were in a relationship or you had an experience where you said no, or you set a limit, and that person's reaction made you feel like, oh, if I say no to this thing, or if I assert this limit in this way for my own health, or to be able to say yes to the things that I know I'm more clearly called to than this thing, that I don't really care about this person, or I don't respect this person, or I don't honor this person, or I don't really love this person. And those things might have felt true to you if that person had such a negative response that they kind of pinned it on you, maybe how the way that they felt when you set that limit. They kind of blame you for the discomfort they feel when you set it. Then they might have tried to get you to backpedal on your decision by saying that type of language. But it's not true. You can have limits and compassion at the same time and hold one in one hand and one in the other hand. So I hope those 2 tips are really helpful. And again, to reiterate, if you don't have a language for limits, that's okay. It's going to feel super foreign at first because from a psychological point of view, you're like rewiring the pathways in your brain that normally like would panic and agree to most everything that you're asked to do for fear of upsetting that person or whatever your motivation is. So when you start doing it differently, your body's going to like send all these warning signals that you're doing the wrong thing because it feels uncomfortable. It senses danger if you start asserting limits. But the more you do it and the more you sit in that discomfort and work through the discomfort, your body and your mind and your spirit will grow in practice of it, and it will get easier. And then you will be more at peace. You will have more of the fruit of the Spirit, and you will be more confident to walk more fully in what God has called you to, because you know that you can assert those limits and protect the things that you're called to protect. So I wanted to share that tonight. I hope it blesses you. And that's it.